The silver Rolls-Royce pulled up just as Marcus was saying, "I do." The engine's purr cut through his wedding vows like a knife, every head turned toward the church entrance. Marcus felt his new bride's hand go cold in his. The massive car door opened with a soft click. Three identical faces peered out, first children with Marcus's own dark eyes. Then she stepped out. Elena. His ex-wife was supposed to be broke and broken, instead she looked like royalty. 2 months earlier, Marcus Chen sat in his corner office, spinning his gold pen between his fingers. He owned the biggest construction company in the city. Money flowed like water. Power came easy. But something still burned in his chest. Elena, his ex-wife, had taken half his assets in the divorce. She'd fought him for their unborn babies when the lawyer said she was pregnant. Then she'd vanish. No forwarding address, no phone calls. Just gone. Now he was marrying Victoria Sterling, the mayor's daughter. Perfect blonde hair. Perfect family connections. Perfect revenge against the woman who dared to challenge him. Marcus picked up his phone. He scrolled through his contacts until he found what he needed. A private investigator named Jake. "Find Elena Rodriguez," Marcus said when Jake answered. "I need her address." "Your ex-wife? Thought you were getting married." "I am. That's exactly why I need to find her." 3 days later, Jake called back. "Found her. She's living in Riverside. Small apartment. Works 2 jobs. Looks like she's struggling, boss." Marcus smiled. Perfect. He pulled out expensive wedding paper, cream-colored, thick, the kind that screamed money. He wrote the invitation by hand. "You're invited to the wedding of Marcus Chen and Victoria Sterling, Saturday, June 15th, St. Michael's Cathedral. Reception to follow." At the bottom, he added one line that made his pulse quicken. "Dress code, formal attire required." Elena wouldn't have formal clothes. She'd show up looking poor and desperate. Everyone would see what happened to women who crossed Marcus Chen. The invitation went out that same day. Marcus threw himself into wedding planning. The cathedral cost $50,000 to book. The flowers alone were worth more than Elena made in a year. Victoria's dress came from Paris. Her ring could buy a house. But Marcus kept thinking about Elena, about how she'd look walking into his perfect wedding in her cheap clothes, about how Victoria's rich friends would whisper and point, about how completely he would win. 2 weeks before the wedding, his assistant brought him a small envelope, hand-delivered, no return address. Inside was a single piece of paper, Elena's handwriting, just like he remembered. "Thank you for the invitation. I'll be there." Elena. Marcus's hand shook as he read it. She was coming. She was actually coming. He called Jake again. "I need you to watch Elena. Tell me what she's doing, what she's buying, how she's preparing." "You sure about this, boss? Seems like you're asking for trouble." "Just do it." For 2 weeks, Jake reported back. Elena worked her morning job at the diner, then her afternoon job cleaning offices. She bought nothing new, no dress, no shoes, no jewelry. She was going to show up exactly as poor as Marcus hoped. The wedding morning arrived like Christmas, and execution day rolled into one. Marcus stood at the altar in his $10,000 tuxedo. Victoria looked like a magazine cover beside him. The cathedral filled with the city's most important people. The ceremony began. Marcus felt power flowing through his veins. This was his moment, his complete victory over the woman who'd thought she could take him down. "Do you, Marcus Chen, take Victoria Sterling to be your wife?" "I do." That's when the Rolls-Royce arrived. Marcus heard the engine first, a sound like velvet and steel. Then came the whispers from the back pews, people turning in their seats. Victoria's grip on his hand tightened. The massive car door opened. 3 children stepped out first, 2 boys and a girl, maybe 3 years old. Identical dark hair, identical dark eyes that looked exactly like Marcus's baby pictures. Then Elena emerged from the car like a queen stepping from her carriage. She wore a dress that probably cost more than Marcus's tuxedo. Midnight blue silk that moved like water. Diamonds at her throat that caught the church lights like stars. Her hair was perfect. Her makeup was perfect. She looked rich. She looked powerful. She looked like she owned the world. Elena walked toward the church doors, her 3 children beside her like a royal procession. Every person in that cathedral turned to stare. The whispers grew louder. Marcus felt his perfect moment cracking apart. Elena paused at the cathedral entrance. She looked straight at Marcus through the open doors. For just a second, she smiled. Then she whispered something to the man in the driver's seat of the Rolls-Royce, a man Marcus couldn't quite see through the tinted windows. The man stepped out of the car, and Marcus's blood turned to ice. The man stepping out of the Rolls-Royce was Richard Sterling, Victoria's own father, the mayor of the city. Marcus felt the cathedral floor tilt beneath his feet. Richard Sterling was supposed to be walking his daughter down the aisle in 20 minutes. Instead, he was here with Elena, with 3 children who looked exactly like Marcus. Marcus? Victoria's voice cracked. Why is my father getting out of that car? Before Marcus could answer, Elena walked through the cathedral doors. Her heels clicked against the marble like a countdown. The 3 children followed her, holding hands in a perfect line. They wore matching navy outfits that probably cost more than most people's cars. Every guest turned to stare. Mrs. Patterson from the country club dropped her purse. Judge Morrison's mouth hung open. The whispers grew into a buzzing storm. Elena stopped halfway down the aisle. She looked directly at Marcus and smiled. Hello, Marcus. Thank you for inviting me to your special day. Her voice carried across the silent cathedral. Calm, confident, rich. Victoria grabbed Marcus's arm. Who is that woman? Why does she look like she owns half the city? Marcus couldn't speak. His throat felt like sandpaper. Elena was supposed to be broke, desperate, humiliated. Instead, she looked like she could buy and sell everyone in this room. The priest cleared his throat. Perhaps we should continue. Actually, Elena said, raising one perfectly manicured hand, I think we should pause for a moment. She reached into her purse, a purse that Marcus now realized was genuine crocodile leather. She pulled out a thick envelope. I have some papers that might interest the groom. Richard Sterling walked down the aisle behind her. His face was stone. He didn't look at his daughter Victoria. He didn't look at Marcus. His eyes stayed fixed on Elena like she was the most important person in the world. Daddy? Victoria called out. What's happening? Richard finally looked at his daughter. His expression was gentle but firm. Victoria, honey, I think you should sit down. I'm getting married. I'm not sitting down. Elena stepped closer to the altar. The 3 children stayed beside her like tiny bodyguards. Marcus could see their faces clearly now. The boy on the left had his exact nose. The girl in the middle had a stubborn chin. The boy on the right had the same dimple in his left cheek that Marcus saw in the mirror every morning. These are your children, Marcus, Elena said quietly. Meet David, Sophia, and Miguel, your son and daughter and son. The cathedral erupted. Gasps echoed off the stone walls. Someone's phone camera flashed. Victoria stumbled backward and grabbed onto the altar rail. That's impossible, Marcus whispered. You were barely pregnant when we divorced. It's only been 3 years. Elena smiled again. Triplets come early sometimes. They were born 7 months after our divorce was finalized. You do the math. Marcus's mind raced. 7 months? That meant they were conceived while we were still married, Elena continued, reading his thoughts. Which means they're legitimate heirs to everything you own. She opened the thick envelope and pulled out legal papers. These are paternity test results. DNA doesn't lie, Marcus. These children are 50% yours. Victoria found her voice. This is insane! Daddy, make her leave! But Richard Sterling stepped forward and took the papers from Elena. He looked them over with the careful eye of a man who'd spent 20 years in politics. The tests are legitimate, he announced to the cathedral. Conducted by Morrison Labs. Notarized by the state. Marcus felt his perfect world cracking like glass. How did you pay for all this? The car, the clothes, the lawyers? Elena's smile grew wider. I didn't pay for anything, Marcus. Someone else did. She gestured toward Richard Sterling. Meet my business partner and my fiancé. The cathedral fell dead silent. Even the children seemed to hold their breath. Victoria's face went white as her wedding dress. What did you just say? Your father and I have been together for 2 years, Elena said calmly. He helped me build my new company, Sterling Construction Solutions. We specialize in affordable housing for low-income families. Marcus's stomach dropped. Sterling Construction Solutions? We've been taking contracts away from Chen Construction for months. Richard said, turns out when you treat your workers fairly and don't cut corners on materials, clients prefer you. Elena reached into her purse again. This time she pulled out a business card. Gold lettering on thick paper. Elena Rodriguez Sterling, Chief Executive Officer. She handed the card to Marcus. His hand shook as he read it. Rodriguez Sterling? Victoria's voice was barely a whisper. We're getting married next month, Elena said. A small ceremony, just family and close friends. She looked down at the three children beside her, David, Sophia, Miguel. Say hello to your father. The little boy on the left, David, looked up at Marcus with serious dark eyes. Mama says you didn't want us. The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. I didn't know you existed. We know, the little girl Sophia said. Mama explained, you thought we weren't real yet. Miguel, the third child, stepped forward. He was holding something in his small hand, a folded piece of paper. We wrote you a letter, he said, offering it to Marcus. Marcus took the paper with trembling fingers. He unfolded it carefully. Inside, in crayon letters, were 3 words. Happy Wedding Day. Below that, 3 small handprints. 1 in red crayon, 1 in blue, 1 in green. Marcus stared at the paper. His children, his actual children, standing right in front of him in their expensive clothes, being raised by another man, a better man. Elena, he whispered, I never meant. You invited me here to humiliate me, Elena said. Her voice was still calm, but steel ran underneath it. You wanted me to show up poor and desperate so everyone could see what happens to women who cross you. She gestured around the cathedral, at the flowers that cost more than most people's monthly salary, at the guests in their designer clothes, at the altar decorated with gold. Instead, everyone can see what happens to men who abandon their children. Victoria suddenly spoke up. Daddy, you're supposed to walk me down the aisle. This is my wedding day. Richard Sterling looked at his daughter with sad eyes. Victoria, I can't support this marriage anymore. What do you mean you can't support it? Marcus invited Elena here to hurt her. That's not the kind of man I want for my daughter. Elena checked her watch, a watch that probably cost more than Marcus's car. We should go, she said. The children have lunch reservations at the country club. She turned to leave, then paused. Oh, Marcus, you'll be hearing from my lawyers on Monday. The children are entitled to their inheritance, all of it. Marcus found his voice. Elena, wait. Can we talk? About what? About them, about us, about how this happened. Elena studied his face for a long moment. The cathedral was so quiet, Marcus could hear his own heartbeat. You had 3 years to find us, Marcus. 3 years to wonder if I was okay, if your babies were okay. You chose not to look. I thought you hated me. I did hate you, past tense. Elena's voice softened slightly. Now I just feel sorry for you. She took Richard Sterling's arm. The older man smiled at her with genuine warmth, love. The kind of look Marcus had never given Elena, even when they were married. Come on, kids, Elena said. Time to go. David, Sophia, and Miguel waved at Marcus. Small hands moving back and forth. They looked happy, healthy, loved. Bye, Daddy, Sophia called out. The word daddy echoed through the cathedral like a bell. Marcus watched his children walk away. His real family, being raised by another man, because Marcus had been too proud and too angry to care. Elena reached the cathedral doors. She turned back one last time. Congratulations on your wedding, Marcus. I hope you get everything you deserve. The massive doors closed behind them with a sound like thunder. Marcus stood at the altar in his $10,000 tuxedo, surrounded by 500 guests, holding a crayon drawing made by the children he'd never known existed. Victoria was crying. Her perfect makeup ran down her cheeks in black streams. The priest cleared his throat. Should we continue with the ceremony? Marcus looked at the crayon handprints in his hands, red, blue, and green, small fingers that belonged to small people who shared his DNA, his eyes, his stubborn chin. He looked at Victoria, beautiful and heartbroken in her Paris dress. He looked at the 500 guests staring at him with expressions ranging from shock to pity to barely concealed delight at the drama. Outside, he could hear the Rolls-Royce driving away, taking his children with it. Marcus made a decision that surprised everyone in the cathedral, including himself. Marcus walked down the altar steps, past Victoria, past the priest, past 500 shocked faces. He walked straight to the cathedral doors and pushed them open. The Rolls-Royce was gone. The street was empty, except for wedding guests' cars lined up like soldiers. Marcus stood on the stone steps in his expensive tuxedo, holding a crayon drawing, feeling more lost than he'd ever felt in his life. Marcus! Victoria's voice echoed behind him. What are you doing? He turned around. His bride stood in the cathedral doorway, her white dress flowing like water around her feet. Behind her, 500 guests crowded to see what would happen next. I'm going after them, Marcus said. Going after who? My children. Victoria's face crumpled. What about our wedding? What about me? Marcus looked at the woman he was supposed to marry, beautiful Victoria with her perfect life and perfect family and perfect future, a future that didn't include 3 children who drew him pictures in crayon. I'm sorry, he said. I can't do this. He pulled off his wedding ring and held it out to her. Victoria stared at it like it was a snake. You're choosing her? After everything she just did to us? I'm choosing them, Marcus said, thinking of David's serious eyes and Sophia's small wave and Miguel's folded letter. I'm choosing my kids. Victoria slapped him. The sound cracked across the church steps like a whip. Marcus's cheek burned, but he didn't move. You'll regret this, Victoria whispered. My father will destroy you. Your business, your reputation, everything. Your father is marrying my ex-wife, Marcus said quietly. I think he's already chosen his side. He walked down the steps toward his car. Behind him, he heard Victoria collapse into sobs. He heard the guests buzzing like angry bees. He heard car doors slamming as people started to leave. He didn't look back. Marcus drove through the city like a man possessed. He had no idea where Elena lived now, no idea where they'd gone for lunch, no idea how to find 3 children whose names he'd learned 5 minutes ago. He pulled over and called Jake, the private investigator. Jake, I need Elena's address right now. Thought you were getting married today, boss. Change of plans. Where does she live? Jake was quiet for a moment. Boss, you sure about this? That address I gave you 2 months ago? It's fake. Marcus's stomach dropped. What do you mean fake? I mean, Elena Rodriguez hasn't lived in Riverside in 2 years. That apartment was a setup. She paid the landlord to let her use it for a few weeks. Made it look like she was struggling. Old furniture, empty fridge, the works. She played me like a violin, boss. Want me to find her real address? Yes. And Jake? Find it fast. While Jake worked his magic, Marcus sat in his car outside a gas station, still wearing his wedding tuxedo. He studied the crayon drawing his children had made. 3 little handprints that proved he was a father. 3 kids who'd grown up without him while he'd been planning revenge. His phone rang. Found her, Jake said. Penthouse apartment on 5th Avenue, the Sterling building. Of course. Richard Sterling's building. Marcus should have guessed. There's something else, boss. Elena Rodriguez Sterling isn't just rich. She's really rich. Her company is worth about $50 million. Marcus's hands went numb. 50 million? And that's just the construction business. She's got investments too. Real estate, tech startups, green energy. The woman's a financial genius. How did I miss this? Because she didn't want you to find it Boss, this lady has been planning something for a long time. The fake apartment, the poor act, even accepting your wedding invitation. It's all connected. Marcus hung up and drove toward Fifth Avenue. His mind raced with questions. How had Elena built a $50 million company in 3 years? Why had she pretended to be poor? What was her real plan? The Sterling building rose 40 stories into the sky, glass and steel that reflected the afternoon sun like a mirror. Marcus parked and walked into the marble lobby. I'm here to see Elena Rodriguez Sterling, he told the security guard. The guard looked at Marcus's wedding tuxedo with raised eyebrows. Is she expecting you? No. But tell her Marcus Chen is here. Tell her it's about the children. The guard made a phone call. After a few minutes, he nodded. Penthouse level. Elevator Bank C. Marcus rode the elevator 40 floors up. His ears popped. His heart hammered against his ribs. The doors opened onto a private hallway with one door, solid wood carved with intricate patterns. He knocked. Elena opened the door. She'd changed out of her cathedral dress into jeans and a simple white shirt. She looked younger, more like the woman he'd married 7 years ago. Hello, Marcus. Can I come in? Elena studied his face for a long moment. Then she stepped aside. The penthouse was enormous. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed the entire city spread out below. The furniture was elegant but comfortable. Children's toys were scattered across an expensive Persian rug. Where are they? Marcus asked. Richard took them to the park. They wanted to feed the ducks in their fancy clothes. Elena smiled. Richard keeps spare clothes here for them. He's very practical that way. Marcus walked to the windows. He could see his own office building from here. A smaller, older building that suddenly looked shabby compared to this view. Why did you do it? He asked. Do what? All of it. The fake apartment. Pretending to be broke. Making me think I'd won. Elena sat down on a cream-colored sofa. She tucked her feet underneath her like she used to do when they were married. Because I wanted you to show me who you really were. I don't understand. When we got divorced, you were angry, hurt. I thought maybe underneath all that anger, you still cared about me, about us, about the babies I was carrying. Elena's voice was calm, but Marcus heard the old pain underneath it. So I disappeared. I gave you space to cool down, to miss me, to wonder if I was okay. But I did wonder. I hired Jake to find you. You hired Jake to humiliate me. There's a difference. Marcus felt heat rise in his cheeks. She was right. For 3 years, Marcus, you never tried to find us because you cared. You only looked when you wanted to hurt me. That told me everything I needed to know. Elena stood up and walked to a side table. She picked up a photograph. 3 babies in matching onesies sleeping in a hospital bed. They were born premature, 8 weeks early. David weighed 3 pounds. Sophia weighed 2 pounds 6 ounces. Miguel was the smallest at 2 pounds 4 ounces. She handed Marcus the photo. His hands shook as he looked at 3 tiny faces. His children. Babies who'd fought to live while he'd been planning his new life with Victoria. They spent 6 weeks in the hospital. I sat beside their incubators 18 hours a day. I sang to them. I read them stories. I promised them their daddy would come see them soon. Marcus's throat felt tight. Elena, but daddy never came because daddy didn't know they existed because daddy was too proud to check if his pregnant ex-wife was okay. Elena took the photo back and set it carefully on the table. So I built a new life. Richard found me when the children were 6 months old. I was working 3 jobs, trying to pay medical bills. He offered me a business loan. And you fell in love with him? Elena smiled. A real smile, not the calculated one from the cathedral. Richard is kind. He's patient. He gets up with the kids when they have nightmares. He teaches them how to ride bikes. He reads them bedtime stories with funny voices. Each word hit Marcus like a physical blow. Another man was raising his children. Another man was being the father Marcus should have been. He loves them like they're his own, Elena continued. And they love him back. What do they call him? Elena hesitated. Papa. The word hung in the air like a sword. Papa. Not daddy. Papa was the man who tucked them in at night. Daddy was the stranger who'd shown up at a wedding. Marcus sank into a chair. Uh, I messed up everything. Yes, you did. Can I fix it? Elena was quiet for a long time. Outside, the sun was setting over the city. Golden light filled the penthouse. I don't know, she said finally. The children don't know you. They don't trust you. And honestly, Marcus, I don't trust you either. Give me a chance. Why should I? Marcus thought about Victoria crying on the church steps, about 500 guests watching him walk away from his own wedding, about the business he'd built through anger and pride instead of love and family. Because I left my wedding today, because I'm sitting here in a $10,000 tuxedo begging my ex-wife to let me meet my own children. Because I finally figured out what actually matters. Elena studied his face. And what matters? Them. Those 3 kids who made me a crayon drawing. Those 3 kids who call another man Papa because I was too stupid and too proud to be their father. The apartment door opened. Richard Sterling walked in, followed by 3 small children. David, Sophia, and Miguel had changed into play clothes. Their faces were flushed from running around the park. They saw Marcus and stopped. Mama, Sophia said, why is the wedding man here? Elena knelt down to their level. This is your biological father. His name is Marcus. He wanted to meet you properly. Miguel stepped closer to Richard. Are you leaving us, Papa? Richard picked up Miguel and held him close. Never. I'm not going anywhere. David, the serious one, looked at Marcus with careful eyes. Do you want us now? The question broke Marcus's heart. Yes. I want you very much. I'm sorry it took me so long to figure that out. Sophia tilted her head. Will you teach us how to ride bikes? Papa already taught us, Miguel said from Richard's arms. Will you read us bedtime stories? David asked. Papa does the best voices, Sophia added helpfully. Each innocent question cut deeper. These children already had a father. A good father. A father who'd been there from the beginning while Marcus had been nursing his wounded pride. I'd like to try, Marcus said, quietly. If you want me to. The 3 children looked at each other. Some silent communication passed between them. Finally, David spoke up. Can we think about it? Marcus nodded. Take all the time you need. Elena stood up. Richard, can you take the kids to their rooms? Marcus and I need to talk. Richard carried Miguel toward the back of the apartment. David and Sophia followed, looking back at Marcus with curious eyes. When they were alone, Elena faced Marcus. Here's what's going to happen. You want to be in their lives, you earn it. Slowly. Carefully. On their terms, not yours. How you start by proving you can put them first before your business, before your pride, before your need to win. Elena walked to her purse and pulled out another envelope. This one was thin, legal-sized. These are custody papers. I'm offering you supervised visits, 2 hours a week to start. If you can handle that without trying to buy their love or turn them against Richard, we'll talk about more time. Marcus took the papers, supervised by who? By me. And by Richard, the man who's been their father for 3 years while you were playing revenge games. The words stung, but Marcus knew he deserved them. There's one more thing, Elena said. If you hurt them, if you disappoint them, or abandon them, or put your needs before theirs, you don't get a second chance. I won't let you break their hearts the way you broke mine. Marcus looked at the custody papers, legal language that spelled out exactly how little claim he had to his own children. 2 hours a week, supervised, conditional. It was more than he deserved. I'll sign them, he said. Elena nodded. Good. Your first visit is next Saturday, 10 a.m. We'll go to the zoo. All of us, Richard included, the children need to see that the adults in their lives can get along. Marcus stood up to leave. At the door, he turned back. Elena, for what it's worth, I'm sorry for everything, for not being there when they were born, for not checking on you, for today at the cathedral, for all of it. Elena's expression softened slightly. I No, you are. But sorry doesn't erase 3 years, Marcus. You want forgiveness? You earn that too. Marcus rode the elevator down 40 floors, still wearing his wedding tuxedo, carrying custody papers that gave him the legal right to spend 2 hours a week with his own children. It was the best deal he'd ever made. But as he walked through the marble lobby, he couldn't shake the feeling that Elena still had one more surprise waiting for him. Saturday morning arrived like Judgment Day. Marcus stood outside the Central Park Zoo at 9:45 a.m., wearing jeans and a polo shirt instead of his usual expensive suits. He'd practiced what to say to his children. He'd bought 3 small gifts. He'd read parenting articles until his eyes burned. Nothing prepared him for the sight of David, Sophia, and Miguel walking toward him, each holding one of Richard Sterling's hands. Elena followed behind them, watching everything with sharp eyes. She looked casual in a sundress and sneakers, but Marcus knew she was analyzing his every move. Good morning, Marcus, Richard said politely. The older man's voice was neutral. Not friendly, not hostile. Professional. Good morning. Marcus knelt down to the children's level. Hi, guys. Ready to see some animals? Sophia nodded enthusiastically. David hung back, cautious. Miguel pressed closer to Richard's leg. I brought you something, Marcus said, pulling out 3 small gift bags. Elena's face tightened. Marcus, we talked about this. No buying their affection. It's nothing expensive, Marcus said quickly. Just something small. He handed a bag to each child. Sophia opened hers first and pulled out a small stuffed elephant. David found a dinosaur book. Miguel got a pack of crayons and a small notebook. For drawing, Marcus explained to Miguel. Like the picture you made me. Miguel looked up at Richard. Can I keep it, Papa? If you want to, Richard said gently. The word Papa still hit Marcus like a punch to the chest, but he tried not to let it show. They walked into the zoo together, an awkward family of 6. Marcus stayed close to the children, trying to engage them. Elena and Richard flanked them like bodyguards. At the lion exhibit, Sophia tugged on Marcus's shirt. Are you really our daddy? She asked. The question stopped Marcus cold. Around them, other families chatted and laughed. Children pointed at the sleeping lions. Normal families with normal relationships. Yes, Marcus said carefully. I'm your biological father. That means we share DNA. We have the same blood. But Papa is our daddy too, David said. It wasn't a question. It was a statement of fact. That's right, Marcus said. You can have more than one daddy. There's biological daddy and chosen daddy. Papa is your chosen daddy. Richard looked surprised, maybe even impressed. They moved to the monkey house. Miguel laughed at the chimps swinging from branch to branch. For a moment, he forgot to be shy and grabbed Marcus's hand to point at a baby monkey. Look, he's learning to swing. Marcus felt his heart crack open, his son's small hand in his, warm and trusting for just a few seconds before Miguel remembered he was supposed to be careful and pulled away. Elena noticed. She always noticed everything. At the penguin exhibit, David asked the question Marcus had been dreading. Why didn't you come see us when we were babies? Marcus glanced at Elena. She gave him no help. This was his test to pass or fail. Because I made a mistake, Marcus said honestly. A big, terrible mistake. I was angry at your mama, and I let that anger make me stupid. I should have checked on you. I should have been there. I'm sorry. Were you angry at us too? Sophia asked. No, sweetheart. I was never angry at you. I didn't even know you existed. If I had known, I would have come running. Really? Miguel whispered. Really, you 3 are the best surprise of my whole life. David studied Marcus with those serious dark eyes. Mama says you invited her to your wedding to be mean to her. Elena tensed. This was dangerous territory. Your mama is right, Marcus said. I did something very mean. I wanted to hurt her feelings because mine were hurt. That was wrong of me. Did you say sorry? Sophia asked. I did. But sometimes sorry isn't enough. Sometimes you have to prove you're really sorry by changing how you act. David nodded like this made sense to him. They ate lunch at the zoo cafe. The children slowly warmed up to Marcus. Sophia showed him how she could tie her own shoes. Miguel drew him a picture of a penguin in his new notebook. David told him about his favorite book series. But every few minutes, one of them would turn to Richard. Papa, can I have more juice? Papa, look at my drawing. Papa, tell Marcus about the time we went camping. Each Papa was a reminder that Marcus was the outsider here, the visitor in his own children's lives. After lunch, they walked through the children's zoo. Sophia squealed with delight when she got to pet a goat. David carefully fed lettuce to a rabbit. Miguel was afraid of the sheep until Richard lifted him up so he could see over the fence safely. Marcus watched Richard with his children. The man was patient, kind, present. Everything Marcus should have been for 3 years. He's a good father, Marcus said to Elena while the kids played on a small playground. Elena followed his gaze to where Richard was pushing Miguel on a swing. The best. Do they ever ask about me? Sometimes. Usually when they see other kids with their dads, they'd ask why their daddy didn't live with us. What did you tell them? The truth, that their daddy wasn't ready to be a daddy yet, that he needed to grow up first. Marcus absorbed this. And now? Elena watched him carefully. Now I'm not sure. Today went better than I expected. On the playground, Sophia fell off the monkey bars and scraped her knee. She started crying, and Marcus moved toward her automatically. But she ran straight to Richard, who scooped her up and examined her knee with gentle hands. Just a little scrape, Princess, Richard said. You're very brave. Sophia sniffled against his shoulder. Kiss it better, Papa. Richard kissed her knee, and Sophia smiled through her tears. Marcus stood frozen, watching another man comfort his daughter, the man she trusted, the man she loved. Elena touched his arm. It takes time. How much time? However long it takes. There's no shortcuts in parenting, Marcus. As they walked back toward the zoo exit, David fell into step beside Marcus. Are you going to come see us again? The boy asked. If you want me to. David considered this. I think I'd like that, but Papa has to come too. Why? Because Papa makes everything safe, and you're still a stranger. The honest words hurt, but Marcus respected them. David was protecting his family. It's what Marcus should have taught him to do. At the zoo entrance, it was time to say goodbye. Marcus knelt down to hug his children. Sophia hugged him back enthusiastically. Miguel allowed a quick squeeze. David shook his hand like a little businessman. Thank you for the zoo, Sophia said. It was fun. Thank you for giving me a chance, Marcus replied. As Elena and Richard loaded the children into their car, Elena pulled Marcus aside. You did better than I thought you would, she admitted. But they're not your children yet, Marcus. They're Richard's children who happen to share your DNA. If you want to change that, you'll have to earn it one zoo trip at a time. Elena started to walk away, then turned back. There's something else you need to know, something I haven't told you yet. Marcus's stomach clenched. What? Richard and I are getting married in 3 weeks. After the ceremony, he's going to legally adopt the children. Their last name will be Sterling, not Chen. The words hit Marcus like a freight train. You can't do that. Yes, I can, unless you file for custody. Full custody, not supervised visits. Real custody where you take them overnight and make them breakfast and help with homework and deal with tantrums and doctor visits and everything else that comes with being a parent. Elena's voice was steel wrapped in silk. But if you file for custody, you'll have to prove you deserve it. In court, in front of a judge, with Richard fighting you every step of the way. Marcus's mind raced. A custody battle against Richard Sterling, the mayor, a man with unlimited resources and 3 years of being a perfect father. Why are you telling me this? Because I want you to make a choice with all the facts. You can keep seeing them 2 hours a week and let Richard adopt them, give them stability in a normal family. Or you can fight for them and potentially put them through a messy custody battle that might tear apart the only family they've ever known. Elena stepped closer. What matters more to you, Marcus? Your children's happiness or your parental rights? Before Marcus could answer, Sophia rolled down the car window. Bye, Daddy Marcus, she called out. See you next Saturday. The car pulled away, taking his children with it, taking his son who called another man Papa, taking his daughter who ran to another man for comfort, taking his youngest boy who was still afraid of him. Marcus stood on the sidewalk watching the taillights disappear into traffic. In 3 weeks, Richard Sterling would become his children's legal father. In 3 weeks, Marcus would lose any claim to them forever. Unless he fought, but fighting meant risking the only relationship he had with them. It meant potentially destroying their sense of security. It meant choosing his wants over their needs. Marcus pulled out his phone and called his lawyer. Phil, it's Marcus Chen. I need to file for emergency custody of my children. I thought you didn't have any children. I do. 3 of them. And I'm running out of time. As Marcus walked to his car, he didn't see Elena watching him from around the corner. Didn't see her pull out her own phone and make a call. It's me, she said quietly. He took the bait. He's filing for custody. She listened to the voice on the other end. No, this is perfect. This is exactly what we needed him to do. Elena hung up and smiled. Phase 3 of her plan was now in motion. The custody hearing was set for 2 weeks later. Marcus hired the best family lawyer money could buy. He gathered financial documents, character witnesses, medical records proving the children were his. He prepared for war. What he didn't prepare for was walking into the courthouse and seeing Elena sitting at the defendant's table alone. No Richard, no high-powered legal team, just Elena in a simple blue dress, reading through a manila folder. Marcus's lawyer, Phil, looked confused. Where's her attorney? I don't know, Marcus muttered. Something felt wrong. Elena never went into battle unprepared. The bailiff called the court to order. Judge Martinez, a stern woman with silver hair, reviewed the case file. This is a petition for emergency custody filed by Marcus Chen regarding 3 minor children. She began, Mr. Chen, you're seeking full custody from the current guardian, Elena Rodriguez Sterling? Yes, Your Honor. And, Miss Rodriguez Sterling, are you represented by counsel? Elena stood up. No, Your Honor. I'm representing myself today. Phil leaned over to Marcus. This is too easy. She's up to something. Judge Martinez frowned. Miss Rodriguez Sterling, this is a serious matter. Are you sure you don't want legal representation? I'm sure, Your Honor. I have everything I need right here. Elena lifted the manila folder. Very well. Mr. Chen, present your case. Phil stood up and began the argument Marcus had paid him $50,000 to make. Marcus was the biological father. He had financial stability. He wanted to be involved in his children's lives. The current arrangement was temporary and inadequate. Furthermore, Your Honor, Phil continued, Mr. Chen recently discovered these children's existence and immediately sought to establish a relationship with them. He's demonstrated commitment by ending his engagement to pursue his parental responsibilities. Judge Martinez took notes. Miss Rodriguez Sterling, your response? Elena stood up calmly. Your Honor, I'd like to present some evidence the court should consider. She opened her manila folder and pulled out a thick stack of papers. These are financial records showing that Marcus Chen has been paying child support for his 3 children for the past 2.5 years. The courtroom went dead silent. Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. I'm sorry? Phil stammered. That's impossible. Elena handed copies to the judge and to Phil. Bank records showing monthly payments of $5,000 transferred from Marcus Chen's personal account to an account designated for David, Sophia, and Miguel Chen. Marcus stared at the papers. They looked official. They had his account numbers, his signature, his bank's letterhead. But he'd never seen them before in his life. Your Honor, Phil said desperately, my client has never made these payments. This is some kind of fraud. Actually, Elena interrupted, Marcus has been making these payments through his company's automated charitable giving program. Chen Construction donates to a foundation called Future Leaders Fund. That foundation has been supporting my children since they were 6 months old. She pulled out more documents. Here's the paperwork Marcus signed authorizing the donations. Here are the foundation's records showing how the money was used. Childcare, medical expenses, education savings accounts. Phil grabbed the papers from Marcus and studied them frantically. Marcus, did you sign this authorization? Marcus looked at the signature. It was definitely his, but when had he signed it? Then he remembered. 3 years ago, his accountant had brought him a stack of tax documents to sign year-end charitable giving for tax breaks. He'd signed them without reading them carefully. You set this up, Marcus whispered to Elena. Elena looked at him with calm eyes. I set up a way for you to support your children without even knowing it. You've been a better father than you realized, Marcus. Judge Martinez studied the documents. These appear to be legitimate. Miss Rodriguez Sterling, are you saying Mr. Chen has been paying child support all along? Yes, Your Honor. $15,000 every month for 2.5 years. That's $450,000 in child support. The number hit Marcus like a physical blow, nearly $500,000 coming out of his business account every month without him noticing. But there's more, Elena continued. Marcus also established college funds for each child. Here are those records. More papers? More signatures Marcus didn't remember making? More proof that he'd been supporting his children without knowing they existed? Phil was sweating now. Your Honor, even if these payments were made, my client was unaware of their purpose. He didn't know he had children. Actually, Elena said quietly, he did know. She pulled out one final document, hospital record. This is from St. Mary's Hospital 3 years ago when the children were born prematurely. Marcus Chen is listed as an emergency contact. He was called when the babies were in critical condition. Marcus's world tilted. That's impossible. I never got a call. Elena looked at him with something that might have been pity. You got the call, Marcus. You just don't remember it. She handed the judge a phone record. January 15th, 3 years ago, 2:30 a.m., St. Mary's Hospital called Marcus Chen's personal cell phone. The call lasted 4 minutes and 17 seconds. Marcus stared at the phone record. January 15th. He knew that date. It was the night he'd gotten drunk at the country club. The night he'd celebrated signing the biggest construction contract of his career. The night he'd been so drunk he could barely stand. You were drunk, Elena said, reading his face. The nurse told you your children were born, that they were in the NICU, that they might not survive, and you hung up on her. The memory came flooding back. A phone call in the middle of his celebration. Some woman talking about babies and Elena and life support. He'd thought it was a prank. He'd hung up and kept drinking. I thought it was a joke, Marcus whispered. The next morning, you probably didn't even remember the call, but the hospital tried again. They left voicemails. They sent certified letters to your office. Elena pulled out a stack of unopened envelopes. Marcus recognized his company's address labels. Your secretary thought they were legal threats about construction projects. She filed them away without opening them. By the time the children were stable enough to come home, I'd decided you'd made your choice. Judge Martinez looked grim. Mr. Chen, are you saying you received notification that your children were born and in critical condition and you took no action? Marcus couldn't speak. The courtroom was spinning. Everything he'd believed about the last 3 years was crashing down around him. Elena wasn't finished. There's one more thing, Your Honor. I'd like to call a witness. The courtroom doors opened. Richard Sterling walked in, but he wasn't alone. Behind him came David, Sophia, and Miguel, holding hands and wearing their best clothes. Your Honor, Elena said I'd like the court to hear from the children themselves. Judge Martinez looked surprised. That's highly unusual in a custody case involving such young children. They're almost 4 years old. They're capable of expressing their preferences. Phil jumped up. Objection! This is clearly designed to manipulate the proceedings. Overruled, Judge Martinez said. I'll allow brief statements from the children. Richard led the 3 children to the witness area. They stood together, holding hands, looking like tiny soldiers. Judge Martinez spoke gently. Hello, children. Do you understand where you are? David, always the spokesperson, nodded. We're in court. Mama explained that Daddy Marcus wants us to live with him sometimes. And how do you feel about that? The 3 children looked at each other. Some silent communication passed between them. Sophia spoke up. We like Daddy Marcus. He's nice. He bought us presents. Miguel nodded. He took us to see the penguins. But, David continued, we want to stay with Mama and Papa. They're our real family. Judge Martinez leaned forward. Can you explain what you mean by real family? David thought carefully. Papa reads us bedtime stories. He makes us breakfast. He checks for monsters under our beds. He loves us even when we're naughty. Sophia added, Daddy Marcus is nice, but Papa is home. Miguel, the youngest, summed it up with devastating simplicity. Papa is our daddy. Marcus is just Marcus. Marcus felt his heart shatter into 1,000 pieces, his own children choosing another man over him. Not because they were forced to, but because Richard had earned their love while Marcus had been nursing his pride. Elena stood up again. Your Honor, I'd like to withdraw my objection to Mr. Chen's custody petition. The courtroom buzzed with confusion. Phil looked like he'd been hit by a truck. Instead, Elena continued, I'd like to propose a different arrangement. She walked to the center of the courtroom, addressing both Marcus and the judge. Marcus, for 3 years you've been paying child support without knowing it. You've been funding their lives while staying out of them. That's not your fault, it's mine. I should have tried harder to reach you after that first phone call. Elena's voice softened. But you're here now. You left your wedding to find your children. You filed for custody even though it might hurt them. You're finally ready to be a father. She turned to Judge Martinez. I propose joint custody. The children live primarily with Richard and me, but Marcus gets them every weekend. Every holiday is split. Every birthday is celebrated twice. The children get 2 fathers who love them instead of having to choose between them. Marcus stared at her. You want to give me joint custody? I want to give our children the father they deserve. All along, Marcus, this was never about keeping you away from them. It was about making you fight for them, making you prove they mattered more than your pride. Elena pulled out one final document. This is a co-parenting agreement I've already signed. Richard's already signed. All it needs is your signature. Marcus looked at the paper. Joint custody, shared holidays, shared responsibilities, shared love. The wedding invitation, Marcus said slowly. The fake apartment, making me think you were poor. It was all to get me here, to this moment. Elena smiled. I needed to know if you were ready to be a real father, if you would choose them over your need to win, if you could put their happiness before your own ego. She gestured to where the children stood with Richard. They need you, Marcus, but they need the version of you that walked away from his own wedding, not the version that tried to humiliate their mother. Marcus looked at his children. David, serious and protective. Sophia, bright and trusting. Miguel, shy but warming up to him. They needed stability. They needed love. They needed both their fathers. If I sign this, Marcus said, what happens to your wedding with Richard? Elena and Richard exchanged glances. Richard spoke up for the first time. We're still getting married, but the adoption is off the table. These children have 2 fathers now. That's going to be complicated sometimes, but love is supposed to be complicated. Judge Martinez reviewed the co-parenting agreement. This is highly unusual, but if all parties agree, the court can approve joint custody. She looked at Marcus. Mr. Chen, do you agree to joint custody with the terms outlined in this agreement? Marcus looked at his children one more time. They were holding hands, waiting to see what the adults would decide about their lives. He thought about the wedding he'd walked away from, the business deals he'd missed while preparing for this hearing, the pride he'd swallowed and the ego he'd set aside. None of it mattered compared to the 3 small people watching him with dark eyes that looked exactly like his own. I agree, Marcus said. I signed the agreement. He walked to Elena's table and signed his name on the custody papers, the same signature that had unknowingly supported his children for years. Judge Martinez made it official. Joint custody is awarded. The children will reside primarily with Elena Rodriguez Sterling and Richard Sterling, with alternating weekend custody to Marcus Chen. The gavel came down with a sound like thunder. As people filed out of the courtroom, Marcus knelt down in front of his children. So he said, I'll see you this weekend? David nodded solemnly. Will you read us bedtime stories? I'll try. I might not be as good as Papa with the voices. Sophia giggled. That's okay. You can practice. Miguel stepped closer and whispered, "Can you teach us about building things like houses?" Marcus felt tears in his eyes. "I'd love to teach you about building things." As the children ran to Elena and Richard, Elena approached Marcus one last time. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" "For becoming the man I always hoped you could be." Elena started to walk away, then turned back. "Oh, and Marcus, that construction contract you lost last month, the one that went to Sterling Construction Solutions? What about it?" Elena smiled. "We're going to need a partner for the next phase. Someone with experience in large commercial projects. Someone who's good with people. Someone who understands what it means to build something that lasts." She handed him a business card. "Call me Monday. Let's talk about building a future together for the kids." Marcus watched his strange new family walk out of the courthouse together. Elena and Richard holding hands. David, Sophia, and Miguel skipping between them. His children. His co-parents. His second chance at everything that mattered. For the first time in 3 years, Marcus Chen felt like he was exactly where he belonged. 3 months later, Marcus stood in his children's bedroom in his new apartment, reading them a bedtime story with funny voices. He was getting better at it, though Papa Richard was still the champion. Sophia was curled up against his left side. Miguel had fallen asleep on his right. David sat at the foot of the bed, listening intently to the story of three little bears. When the story ended, Marcus tucked them in one by one. "Daddy Marcus," Sophia whispered as he turned off the light. "Yes, sweetheart? I'm glad you came to find us." "Me too, baby girl, me too." As Marcus closed the bedroom door, he could hear Elena and Richard talking quietly in the kitchen of the house next door, planning birthday parties and school events and all the ordinary magic of raising children together. It wasn't the family Marcus had planned. It wasn't the revenge Elena had started with. It wasn't the simple adoption Richard had expected, but it was theirs, complicated and messy and full of love. And sometimes, Marcus thought as he settled into his reading chair with a cup of coffee and tomorrow's construction plans, sometimes the best families are the ones you build from scratch, one day at a time, one story at a time, one "I'm sorry and I love you" at a time. Outside his window, he could see the lights in Elena and Richard's house, his children's other home, their first home, the place they felt safest. But here, in this apartment filled with toys and laughter and bedtime stories, here they were learning what it meant to be loved by their biological father, too. Marcus picked up his phone and looked at a text from Elena. "The kids want to know if you can come to Miguel's soccer game Saturday. Richard's coaching, but they want both their dads there." He texted back, "Wouldn't miss it." Then he settled back in his chair and smiled. Tomorrow was Friday, which meant tonight was the last night before his children came home to him for the weekend. Marcus Chen had lost a wedding, a fiance, and half his pride. In return, he'd gained 3 children, 2 co-parents, and the first real family he'd ever known. It was the best trade he'd ever made. Comment part 2.